So we were primarily a country which concentrated on textile exports. Now that was the functionality in terms of our specification. A number of industries were set up during this particular areas in the public sector. One of the most important things was the Hindustan shipyard, the Hindustan tools, the integral coach factory, etc. The third plan was followed by the second plan by establishing a basic capital and producer good industries, no doubt about it. Good morning and welcome to the second session, Chapter 3, Unit 1, first semester B.Ba, Pre-Reforms of Indian Economy, where we are going to speak about industrial development. It's a very interesting topic to know about how did the industrial segment in India develop by itself. Now, for example, we all know that the advent of British rule in India and the effect of it was quite a long time. Now, when the Britishers actually left India, they did not leave us with wealth. They did not leave us with prosperity. Rather, they made us understand what it is all about to struggle, what it is all about hardship, what it is like to be in poverty state. So exactly where Indians started their ideology to become an industrialized nation was at that point when we started thinking that India can become a manufacturing hub for the world. Now, the exports from India consisted of goods like cotton, silk, artistic wares, woolen cloth, etc. So we were primarily a country which concentrated on textile exports. Now, that was the functionality in terms of our specification. We were master weavers. We were people who were known for our design, for our craft, and for our expertise in terms of understanding the textile. But we did not want to stop there. The impact of our British policies and industrial revolution led to the decay of Indian handicraft industry. Why? Because the Britishers took away our talent. Britishers took away our products. They took away the wealth from us, not in just terms of money, but also in terms of the hard work that went in. So post the Industrial Revolution, the man-made, machine-made concept coming into picture where Indian market started adopting itself to the machinery world. We started getting into the tools and technology. Followed by the decline in the traditional handicraft, there was a rise for the modern industrialization in India due to the British policy of encouraging imports of the British goods and exports of raw materials from India. So the Britishers did not just leave India as a developing nation. Rather, they took away each and every factor of produce, of growth from us. They made India as an inventory house, a storage house, from where all the raw materials were exported. They were converted to finished goods and again sold back in the Indian market. So we suffered the double pricing. We suffered in terms of profit. We suffered in terms of growth. So that's exactly where India wanted to take a revenge. India wanted to make a serious comeback. We came back with our industrial policy, first 5-year plan, which was not just on a large scale for industrialization. Rather, the plan was just made to give an attempt to a practical shape to Indian economy by providing development on both agricultural as well as towards the private and public sectors. A number of industries were set up during this particular areas in the public sector. One of the most important things was the Hindustan shipyard, the Hindustan tools, the integral coach factory, etc. Now, we were not lacking behind in terms of talent or hard work. We know exactly where we wanted to grow. We also know this factor that we wanted to be an industrialized nation within a quick time frame. But then what was really interesting, what was really happening for us is that we wanted to see that this particular segments start getting into picture. So what was that what we were looking into is that the shipyard, the shipping factor, the logistics, the railways, and the machine tools. So these are some of the sectors that were given the preliminary importance, pushed into the economy so that we start reviving it, we start pushing it forward in terms of growth. Followed by the second 5-year plan. The highest priority was given to industrialization. From the second 5-year plan onwards, that's after the 1957 onwards, we were talking only about industrialized nation. So why we were trying to come out with this model is that the establishing of basic and capital goods industry on a large scale basis, this word needs to be underlined. The reason is that we were thinking about just industries at like a captive centers. But in the second 5-year plan, we understood that we have to grow forward, we have to produce more, we have to manufacture more in order to grow in terms of the industrial development. Followed by the substantial investment in iron and steel, coal, heavy engineering, machine building activities, heavy chemical, cement industries are of the basic importance. So probably this is where India started awakening. This is the time period when India wanted to go back and tell the world that we are second to none. We can probably become the best nation, putting our best foot forward. Now, moving further, the third plan. The third plan was followed by the second plan by establishing a basic capital and producer good industries, no doubt about it. Special emphasis on the machine building industry. As a result, the second and the first year plan, where we had given emphasis on the public sector, most of the capital goods were built under the public sector. I would call the third 5-year plan and plan that was concentrated towards the public sector. That was the era where the public sector was given maximum importance. We wanted this sector to become the outgrown sector which could start giving employment to hundreds and thousands of people in India, plus also start ensuring that the economic engines are revived. So that's exactly where the growth platform was created. In the third 5-year plan, we made it a point that any capital good manufacturing at the large scale has to be done under the public sector labeling, because that would provide employment, that would provide job security, and would also solve the problem of unemployment. So look at our industrial development thought process. Might not be great when we talk about it today, but at that juncture, at that point, a revival from the British, we were doing absolutely fantastic. Moving further, during the period 2002 to 2003, a quick fast forward. Let me just take you seamlessly from the third 5-year plan to that of 2002-2003, a modern India. An India where telecommunication is now available. Most of the people were exposed to a wonderful gadget called as the mobile or the cell phone altogether. And this is a new millennium that we are witnessing. A sharp recovery, revival of industrial sector, the 10th and the 11th plan, which is very, very important, which started witnessing high growth rate. Now, the rate of industrial growth was only 5% during the initial years, but then when we slowly started talking about, we started moving to 8 and 11% in 2006 and 7. Now, that's a fantastic acceleration that we are talking about. Because by that time, India is an established nation trying to create its own name identity. Probably we started understanding that every single sector, that's starting from infrastructure to logistics to capital goods, even to that of the heavy engineering, India made its name categorically. We created such a niche in the market that every other country started understanding that this is not a developing nation, but a developed nation which is trying to teach the world modern economy. So that's exactly where we are repositioning ourselves altogether. Followed by which, the period of 2002 to 2003, why we are very much concentrated is the 10th 5-year plan. It's a very, very important thing. Why was the significant acceleration on the capital goods sector was significant contributor for the overall economic growth. Now, the focus was so much integrated with technology that probably every single industry, every single sector started getting into the bandwidth. They started saying that, yes, this is going to be the most important thing. So During the 11th five-year plan, the industrial growth was considerable degree of fluctuations. After growing for more than 8%, the growth collapsed to 2.8% in the year 2008-2009, and that was not our mistake because the world economic environment was like that. If you remember, 2008 was the year at which the mortgage crisis happened in the United States, though that was more concentrated towards the BFSI, the banking financial services industry and insurance factor, but still the financial crisis had a huge toll that hit across the world economy. So we were also a victim to the financial crisis that happened in the United States. But nevertheless, we did not give it up. What we did is that the industrial recovery that we were started talking about was happening in the year 2010 onwards, where again we touched a double digit of 10%. So the industrial growth started roaring back in the year 2010-11, again back with a 8.2 and then and a 9% plus average. So we were able to see that the manufacturing sector is all set to create a new boom to the economy. Now, followed by which the period starting 2011-12 saw a severe slowdown again, industrial growth and production. Now, that was majorly because weak demand for exports. Now, that's probably one of the periods which we want to forget in the Indian economy. Why? Because that was a very bad scenario that I could probably talk when the markets completely crashed, global financial crisis all over the world, slowdown in the domestic demand. We were completely taken by high interest in India maintained by RBI and persistently very high inflation. So I would not like to go back on that scenario again, trying to revive again, trying to understand. But yes, this was possible. This was actually hitting the economy very, very badly, very severely. So this was one of the scenarios which I would like to talk about, saying that yes, this was creating a lot of jolt, a lot of hit to the entire economy, followed by the slowdown in the private investment by the private sector due to weak returns on investment. Now, that was also coming in very badly to India. The rising NPAs in terms of the public sector and banks had led to weak credit. So, the global financial crisis is what we have been talking about in and out. Why? Because that crisis actually crippled the economy to such an extent that probably we could not even think that demand could really go down to this extent and exports could just fall down like a pack of cards. Now, this is one of the situations where you would see that even the best of the best investments in the markets, let it be on the stocks or the debt funds or probably on any of the hybrid that we have been talking about, all of them literally gave on a negative returns, making the investors as well as the companies go on a complete depressed mood altogether. But nevertheless, what we wanted to see is that the era of 2014-15, what we're going to discuss about, where we're going to come back, we're going to make a huge return in terms of our growth. Now, the post factor, what we are talking about is the failure of past projects in the private sector. Government was trying to, was very, very reluctant to go back to the public sector, uncertain global recovery, the European debt crisis, not to forget, because if we are talking about economics, we also need to understand that after the US crisis, the European markets took a huge toll on the economic recovery. And yes, we did fall down. The slowdown in the prices of commodities in international commodity markets due to the weak Chinese growth that we are talking about. The weakness had the prices hit on Indian agriculture. Now, we know that every time when this crisis was hitting across, if there is going to be a slowdown in the US, European market, the Western markets as we are talking about, and the commodities start taking a toll in the China market, we're not going to give up. That's going to definitely hit the Indian market, and this is going to have a severe impact altogether. So that's what we have been talking about in the rural area segments altogether. Followed by which we were developed ourselves to the next level. So with this, I would like to conclude this session saying that the industrial development was on a very great phase altogether. I hope and believe that all the factors that have been told in this particular session will be of a great help, and also in terms of practical and theoretical review. In the upcoming sessions, we would be talking about the MSME, the service sectors, and the other halves of the Indian economy. But until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session.